Hello crafters and welcome to this week's Crafts Are Us, Crafts with Us. I'm Michelle Brown, Creative Director from Picture to Page and Beyond, which is our scrapbooking, mixed media art, paper crafts, card making, stenciling, art journaling, all sorts of paper crafts community, and really looking forward to spending this next half an hour or so with you and doing some doodling with stencils. So we'll go through our materials list and then we'll get started. So hopefully we've had a whole heap of people say they're going to join us, so hopefully you'll be popping on soon. And of course what we will be doing after this session is make sure that all these are available on YouTube as well, on our YouTube channel. So for those that don't have Facebook and watching this live, I hope you can come and join us when we have the replay on as well, because the information will still be the same. So I'm going to turn you around. Now we've made some improvements since our session last week. Our lighting's a bit changed and we're hoping that won't strobe, and I think that's the main thing. I know I'm sideways. The problem is that my camera is horizontal. So if you turn your phone sideways, you should be right, because that's the problem with the last update with Facebook Live. You need to do it portrait, and unfortunately our equipment is much better if the phone's horizontal. So turn it sideways and you will be ready to go. Now hold on and we'll get started. Okay, now I hope you've had a chance to get your crafting materials together. So we've got a regular sketchbook or some, we've got some stencils. So here I've got some stencils by Dina Wakely. I've got some by Stencil Girl stencils, and I think this one was from just the Rights Arts and Crafts, and another Stencil Girl one. So a handful of stencils. If you don't have your own stencils, you can always make some. You can punch out shapes out of even just cardboard, because we're not using any wet medium today, so it doesn't matter if they're made from cardboard. These ones are made out of a thin plastic, or you can use a hole punch to create circles, all sorts of ways to create stencils. So we'll set that aside. Now I've got some markers. I've got a pencil and a Sharpie for the outlines, and then I've got some coloured markers, and these are just a handful of colours that I like putting together. So again, whatever you've got, or if you've just got pencils, that will work fine as well. And the art journal I've got, this is my sketchbook, so it's one that's for just dry medium and for writing and doodling. I think this one had some of my drawings in it while I was practicing all my drawings and sketches. So, you know, just using it for testing our colours, testing our picture colours. That was after a class that I did last year with Crafters Cupboard. So yeah, all sorts of things in here. So let's turn to a new page. I'm going to open it up, turn it this way, and I'm going to start with, I'm going to use Word, but you could also just use shapes as well. And what we want to do is create some block shapes so that we can then stencil into. So I'm thinking of using a word, and the word that keeps coming back to me at the moment is time, because in these unusual times, somehow we seem to have more time, but also somehow less time as well. So I'm going to do some nice big letters. Maybe they're a little bit too big. How am I going to fit all this in? So that's what's good with these art journals, is that you can just play with your lettering. You can see what makes sense. That's why we're doing it in pencil first, so that if we need to adjust it, we can. And there we go. So there is the block of our letters. So you can see there that we've managed to get it. Oh, is that strobing again? We've done our very best to adjust the lighting, and it looks like it's still not working too well. So hopefully that's better. Okay, so not really happy with that M, but I'll leave that out and we'll write it out in a little bit. So what I'm going to do next is grab my markers and grab one of my stencils. Now, there's a few different techniques we can use. This stencil has got quite open shapes compared to the size of my letters. So what we can then do is actually use that as a guide. So I'm going to start with the T. I'm going to put my stencil down on here. I'm going to choose one colour to do the T in. And then noting the lines underneath as well as where the stencil is, I'm going to start filling this in. So using my stencils to create shapes, but then also making sure it's inside the letters as well. So there we go. Now I can also see that I've got some down here. So how's everyone going on this somewhat sunny Tuesday? Hopefully you've settled into a bit of a new routine. We've got people that are working from home. We've got people that have got their kids at home. So what I'm going to do now in the same colour is leaving the stencil there and then just starting to fill that in. So I might decide, I might just use some of that, the arc that I've already got there, and just continue to fill that in. So again, the idea of doodling is that it's nice and slow, we're not in a rush, we can practice our line work, which helps with our lettering. Now, I don't want to necessarily do the same here, so I might do something similar but different. So doing curves. And then just keep that same shape going. And the idea is we just want to fill up as much of that stencil space as we can. Now here, do some lines. And again, just noting here, it comes quite close to the edge of the lettering. So just want to be careful with that. This one's quite a small one, so I might just do a bit of a zigzag there. Some horizontal lines there. Oh, so the other good thing, of course, about stenciling, if we hold it, we can lift it up and get an idea of what it looks like. So that's a really good start. What have we got over here? Let's perhaps do some more lines in parallel with that edge. And of course, there are really no rules with these doodling, so we can just do whatever we feel like. Of course, you could also use it to colour in. Another fun thing to do too is, if you've got markers and coloured pencils, is to do some doodling with the markers and then colour in the blocks with pencils to give it a real solid outline. There we go. Now we've got two more down here. I actually really like that one, so I might do something similar. Follow the lines of that arrow. So really let your stencils be your guide. Okay, so before I lift it off, just check. So there we go. There we've got our T. Is perhaps with a different colour or with the same colour, is then go fill in that other space as well. So I might do, because of that sort of lines, is to use a bit of circles as well to fill in the other space. Just spend some time colouring in the circles. I've had a busy morning here at Picture to Page headquarters. We've been stock taking from the Bendigo show, and we are brushing up our mixed media art online store because we haven't really put a lot of effort into that, and there's always been a few things there but not many. So we've been taking photos, and I've seconded son number 2 to come and help, even though it was a bit early for him this morning. So he's been helping us stock take and then get these product photos up. So hopefully towards the end of the week over at Creating Mixed Media Art on Facebook, we'll be able to have a bit of a launch and do some more of those mixed media. Now, we also want to consider we don't necessarily want full shapes, we want some partial shapes as well, just to show a bit of interest and movement. And I'm putting some dots in between the circles as well, again just to help fill it up. It's always interesting how hard it is to be random. There we go. I think that might do for my first letter T. Now let me just pop around and see if there's any questions. While son number 2 could be convinced to help with the stock tag, he wasn't ready to come and help with the questions. So, okay, it looks like no further questions, and that light's not too bad, though it is strobing a little bit, isn't it? No, definitely. Okay, we shall rely on the sun. Okay, so now that I've filled in my first letter, I'm going to choose another stencil. This time I'm going to choose this one and put it down and use it on the T, on the I, I should say. What colour do I want? I might go with the pink. Not much of a pink person, but there is definitely a place for it. So I hope those of you that are getting a chance to work from home are settling into your new routine. It certainly does take a bit of adjustment. But as my son's finding, by not having to travel to university, you save an awful lot of time. Now, rather than colour that in, I think what I might do is just do just a little bit of a zigzag. Maybe not in every one, in every second one. So you can see the other stencil had quite a bit of open area and we could do more patterns in it, whereas this one is quite tight, so we can have a bit of a different effect for this one. And again, if you want to check how we're going, hold the stencil, pull it back. Oh, I went a little bit over the lines, but not to worry. Okay. And for those of you who've only got others at home, when you're not used to it, I hope you're having a chance to find some space as well. Because I think that's going to be the real challenge over the next few weeks, is how do we adjust? But interestingly, haven't we adjusted quickly to social distancing? Have you noticed if you're watching like a television show or something and suddenly you see people close together and you think, oh, that's not right. So in a way, we've adjusted quickly to that. Some people have. But yeah, when we sort of lose our opportunity for our regular routine, especially for those of us that might spend time at home crafting. I remember someone telling me when their husband first retired, it was driving them crazy because he'd be coming out going, oh, would you like a cup of tea? And I've got the kettle on, and what are you up to? It's like, I just want to be left alone. So I'm using that little peak of the fan there to do a bit of a different pattern. Now, let's continue with the dots. So when we do this, we want to think about all the different sort of patterns. So we can do lines, zigzags, can be horizontal, can be diagonal. They can be thick, they can be thin. Now I've just gone and done two zigzags next to each other. Anyway, that is, of course, the fun thing about art journals, is that there are no rules. Okay. I think that looks pretty good. Now, whether that just needs something else in between it, I'm not sure. I'm just going to leave that for now. Okay, now I'm going to grab one of these stencils that has a lot more space in it. So let's look at what we can do with that M, even though I'm really not that impressed with it. So I don't want to use perhaps the biggest ones because I think that'll get lost. But here it's got these shapes are just that little bit close together. So I'm going to line it up. I don't want it to look too symmetrical. And again, just start by... Now the other thing you can always do is once you've coloured in your letters is then do a contrasting shape around the outside as well. So sometimes I don't think we give our different craft materials enough credit. You know, we've all got markers, we've all got pencils. We don't have to make them complicated and do all Copic shading. Now, is that in there? No, that one's definitely out. Okay, let's not do that one, just as well I checked. And that one is just outside as well. So there we go. So I might trace around the edge of the letters at the same time. So yeah, thinking about what can we do with our lines. We can do diagonal, we can do vertical. And that stencil just really helps guide where these lines need to go. So we can do maybe 2 thin and then a wide, 2 thin and then a wide. Now because this has the little cutout for the M, I'm also continuing that across. There we go. And this one, so I've got horizontal, so I can do horizontal the other way. And again, just change the angle of that or give it a different look. Oops. And this last little bit, so only a small one. I might just do a bit of a zigzag just to fill that one up. Oh, and perhaps come around there. Oh, and I've just realised that there's this lower part of this leg of the M as well, so I might just draw that around there. Oh, and that one as well. So let's do some bit of a crosshatch pattern and something similar. Go one way. Oh, it's nice and still, slow. The other way. So there we go. So I've got my T, my I, and my M. Now, what other stencils had I grabbed? Again, this is another fun one. This is a really open one. So this might help give us a bit of definition. Now, just looking at my colours, I think I probably want to go with green. I want to put a bit of the coolness back into it. Now, this is going to be a little bit harder to hold, being so fine. And we go, oops. So yeah, if you're really having trouble holding the stencil, there's a couple of options. You can sort of get that, that on-off glue, but that was always a bit of a hit and miss sometimes. So you could always get a piece of low-tack tape or masking tape and just put it onto your clothes and take some of the stickiness off it, and that'll help you hold it as well. Because we want to make sure that we're not, the tape won't hurt the stencils, but we don't want to scuff up the art journal underneath either. So just depending on how steady your hands are, or if you're having trouble holding them for that long. Now I'm just going to carefully move across. Now these markers also dry really quickly as well, so I don't really need to worry about smudging. If you've got, and this paper's got quite a bit of tooth in it because it's a sketchbook, so if you are using something that's a bit of a more shiny surface, you might just need to consider whether you need to make sure you go a bit slower and let it dry as well. Okay, so now that I've got my basic shape, I can come and start filling those in as well. These markers get used so much, I can see that this green's actually starting to go a bit yellow. Now, because it's so thin, I might just pull that one off and just leave it there. And just continue to draw the lines. So if you didn't want to do letters, you could also just do shapes. You could do a series of roundish circle and oval type things. You could do squares. You could create a big sort of a grid pattern and have a whole heap of squares, and your challenge is to try and get each one with a different colour or a different pattern in it. Again, these are things I really enjoy doing when you just need some downtime, you want to turn your brain off a little bit. I often listen to podcasts or some music. I think we all need to be really conscious about distancing ourselves from the constant onslaught. Obviously we need to keep up to date because things are changing so quickly, but I'm finding it's just becoming really overwhelming. So how do we just really consciously stop and step away, get some crafting done, give some of our friends and family a call, and just do our best. There's been quite a few articles around whether we're doing a bit of a collective grieving at the moment, or whether we're just all going through some sort of a trauma. Because unless we're actually sick, we're not really fighting it off. We're just sort of doing our best so no one else gets it. There we go. How are we going for time? So that's about 20 minutes. So I'm sure you've heard me talk to myself well and truly long enough. Let's see if there's any other questions. Hi, Peter. No, I know I'm on the side because this is the new update for Facebook Live. So you might have to just try and putting it onto the side, stopping it rotating. And Susan found us, excellent. And we'll make sure we save it here. And then, like I said, we'll export it to YouTube. So anyone else who didn't have a chance. So just hold on a tip. I'll pop you back up. Okay, so I hope you've had a chance to enjoy some little bit of crafting time, that you've set aside the time this afternoon, you've pulled out your craft supplies, whether you have followed along with our tutorial and our guidelines or come up with your own, it is completely up to you. All we want to do is set aside that time to make sure we're getting out our crafting things and just spending some time together. So I think that's all from me. We did our update live yesterday, Monday the 30th of March. So if you need to see what we're up to, a picture to page, that's the best place. If you need any other information, a whole heap of things is popping on to our YouTube channel. So I can put a link down below as well. I'm doing, like I think I said, a whole heap of crafting for you as part of our crafting community, but also some more general crafts for those that are just getting started as well. So if you've got any friends that are really amazed at your crafting and really want to get started, that's probably a good resource as well. And our challenge, of course, is that if we don't have a lot of supplies at home, what are we going to do? But I think most of us have at least got some paper, some cards, some pencils, a little bit of paint, a few bits and pieces, and we can generally get some crafting done and keep our minds off things. So it's really good to have you all here today. Really pleased you could join us. I'm not sure when the next one will be. I'll look for, well, again, if you need more, want more, let me know. If not, I will just keep it to once a week so as not to bore you to tears, because as if it's going to drag on to months, I think I'm going to run out of ideas. I've made a list and I've got about 12. So if I do 2 or 3 a week, that's not going to get us very far. Anyway, looking forward to hearing how you go. Show us your photos. You can always post them in the Papercraft Posse group. If you're not in the Posse group, make sure you join. And we've done this actually in the picture to page rather than Posse, so hopefully it reaches more people. And you can find us and come along, and we can offer you a little bit of crafty comfort in these challenging times. This is Michelle Brown signing off. I hope you have a crafty day.